Derek Chisora train rolled on in the last 2 weeks. He beat Joe Joyce, a unanimous decision. What's next in your view? What should be next in your view for both of these fighters, Spence?
Do you know what? It was a heroic performance for Derek, and he's been a great ambassador for the sport of boxing. You know, I think we've all, myself and Simon especially, have been, great advocates of Derek Chisora stopping boxing maybe 2 or 3 years ago. I think that, he served his time, but it's his choice. And he said to me straight after that fight when I got in the ring and interviewed him, Spence, that's 48, I'm going to 50, and that's where it's at. So I go, right. He's going to box anyway, regardless. Do I want to see him in with someone like Moses Itoma or someone like that? No, I don't, because it's like, he's at that stage of his career where I just want to see him go out on a high and just retire, because he deserves that. And he's going to have these 2 fights, whether that's right or wrong. So I am going to say, let's go with Deontay Wilder. Deontay Wilder is another fighter that looks completely shot. Oh, Simon, come on, mate. He looks completely shot. Look at the fight against Zhang. The guy was scared to throw a punch.
Okay, fine, fair enough. Why would you advocate for Deontay Wilder to fight Derek Chisora, knowing that Deontay Wilder is a spent force, knowing that he, as you yourself have described him, why would you advocate for that as a proper fight besides Derek getting a pension out of it? Is that your main reason?
No, because I don't want Derek to go in any hard fight. I know Derek personally, and I don't want Derek to be there used as a punch bag in any hard fights, because he's not going to retire. I want to see him retire.
Okay,
but he's not going to do that. So I'm just looking for. I'm looking for a route. I'm looking for a payday for Derek, thinking,
well, who's best on the list?
Because he wants the big name. He wants the big names.
So let me ask you the question about. Let me ask you the question about the fight. Did that fight tell us more about the deficiencies of Joe Joyce than it did about the proficiency of Derek Chisora? Because I don't think Joe Joyce could have. I don't think he avoided a single shot that Derek threw, did he?
No, he didn't. I actually fancied Derek going into the fight. I still had the fight reasonably close. I thought it was a close fight. I didn't think it was one-sided in any shape or form. But Joe Joyce, if you look at what happened, the 2 Zhang fights, I think Zhang took a hell of a lot out of him. He's taken so much out of him. If you look at the win against Kai Ali, Joe Joyce looked terrible in that fight. He did. And then against Derek Chisora, it was a tight one. But Derek isn't the fighter that he used to be either. It was kind of 2 guys who are on their way out of the sport, having a fight which turned out to be quite an exciting one because they're at a similar sort of level. So I understand Derek wants to fight on and I think, look, you have to admire Derek. I think he's an absolute hero and how he fights. It's great to watch, but Spencer said he maybe talk about him retiring 3 years ago. Maybe even longer than that. He should have thought about retiring, because there's more to life than boxing, and I just hope that it's not going to take its toll on Derek at some point.
Carl and Spencer,
if it hasn't already.
Carl, earlier on in the week, Jai Opetaia, who's an absolute destruction machine. I saw him in Saudi recently. I mean, whoever goes in the ring with him deserves a pat in the back for bravery alone.
Breeders held his own against him. Don't worry about that.
Well, yeah, Maris Breeders had a real tilt against him, but ended up fairly beaten up at the end of it all, though. Having said that, you're right, though, Simon. Breeders beat Opetaia's nose first time around, but still lost the fight to Opetaia. Opetaia was on with us, Carl Spencer, earlier on the week, and he said, Billam-Smith, yeah, he beat Reactpour. I would like Billam-Smith next. Have a listen.
I don't think he wants to fight, to be honest. I feel like it's there to be made. He'll be fighting on the biggest stages, generating the most money, and he's saying he wants to fight another world champion. I've actually got 2 world titles instead of 1, so, I feel like I've got the most to offer, but I'm just trying to get that fight over the line. But, yeah, man, we'll see how it goes.
Simon, we'll go to the boys in Paris in a second, but what do you think? Billam-Smith against Opetaia, does that wet the whistle?
Yeah, I mean, I think Jai Opetaia was so impressive in recent fights, but the levels of the people that he's fought against have made him look more impressive. I think he wasn't as impressive as people expected him to be against Marius Breeders. He was very quick to start the fight and very dominating of the fight, but Breeders came back into it in the later rounds and made it a more competitive fight than I thought it would be. And don't forget, Breeders hadn't fought for a while. And so with that in mind, I like Jai Opetaia. I think he is the best cruiserweight around, but I also think Chris Billam should plough the trough that Chris Billam wants to plough. He doesn't have to dance to Jai Opetaia's tune. If he thinks he can go and get another world title somewhere else and have 2 world titles and then fight Joe Opetaia for an undisputed, why wouldn't Chris Billam-Smith do that? Chris Billam-Smith and Spencer and Carl will tell us he'll duck no one. He's not frightened of anybody.
Yeah.
And we saw him in Germany, but he also knows he's got an opportunity to secure his future. So Joe Opetaia can dump up and down and do his Tasmanian Devil version of what he thinks he's entitled to, but I think Chris Billam-Smith should do what he wants to do.
What do you think about Billam-Smith against Opetaia, Spence?
Yeah, do you know what? It's a fight obviously we would love to see, and I know it's a fight that Chris Billam-Smith would love to do as well, but I think that they've got plans for Chris Billam-Smith. You know, they said, right, now he's won the title, he's defended it a couple of times, let him choose his own destiny, his own route. Opetaia is the monster of the division, that's the big fight, and I agree with Simon, that's for the undisputed, but I think he wants to go down the road of like Ramirez, the WBA champion, collect that title before going to fight someone like Opetaia and let Opetaia go down that WBC route. But yeah, it makes total sense. As a fighter, of course he wants to do that, but let's talk about the business side of things here. Gilberto Ramirez is the fight for Chris Billam-Smith. Forget what Opetaia is saying, but let him do it on his terms, Chris Billam-Smith, because I think he's earned that.
Absolutely right.
What do you think, Carl? What do you think?
I think if you've won a world title and you've made a defence of it as well as Chris Billam-Smith has, I think you should be looking for unification fights. I think that Jai Opetaia is probably the best in the division, if I'm being honest, but Ramirez is another quality fighter as well, so there's no easy route for Chris Billam-Smith to have a unification fight, and there shouldn't be really. That, you know, to become a unified champion, it should be a difficult thing to do. But I think it's a difficult fight for Billam-Smith to beat either man. I think you have to give him a load of credit from where he's came from. I think he's probably exceeded his expectations when he turned pro. I remember training alongside him at the very, very start, and he was a good fighter, but I never thought this guy has world champion written all over him, and he's done that. He should be proud of that fact, but I think that a fight with Opetaia is a difficult one. I can't really make an argument for him winning it, if I'm being honest. Okay. And even a fight with Ramirez, I think...
Is Ramirez a pumped-up light heavyweight, though?
Yeah, he's a light heavyweight. He's a big one. Yeah, and he's a good fighter, a quality fighter. Billam-Smith Billam-Smith's a big guy as well, so he could have a slight advantage there, but I still see him losing the fight.
Carl, thank you very much indeed for joining us alongside Spencer. I know Spencer's got an appointment with you. He wants to drag you off to the Louvre this afternoon, being a bit of an art lover, Spencer, particularly interested in the Renaissance period. Thank you so much, Carl and Spencer, over in Paris. And remember, you can watch every moment of the Olympic Games in Paris 2024 live only on Discovery Plus, the streaming home of the Olympics.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.